Hello and welcome. I am Sumi Sukanya Dutta and you're watching Health and You. A recent study from the US has found that yogurt may have a role to play in preventing certain type of colon cancer. While the study is complex and also inconclusive, what it has done is bring the spotlight on the emerging understanding on gut health and immunity. To discuss this very important and also very interesting subject, we have two special guests, Dr. Dipyaman Ganguly and Dr. Tanmay Majumdar. Dr. Ganguly is an immunologist and cell biologist and professor in the Department of Biology at Ashoka University. Before this, he was with CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Biology. Dr. Majumdar is a senior scientist with National Institute of Immunology and has been working on researching the connection between microbiome and diseases. Welcome, Dr. Ganguly and Dr. Majumdar. Really appreciate that both of you could join us. So, Dr. Ganguly, we'll start by asking you first. What do you think of this latest research, and also tell us about how the gut interacts with the immune system?
So this research is comes as one of the members in a long series of research that is being done all over the world, where probiotics have been shown to modulate the population of bacteria that live in the gut, and in that way uh, take care of deviations that may happen in certain patients and people who are having ailments. So there are evidences that yes, there are deviations from the normal ecology of the microbial ecology of the gut in ailing patients for different, involving different issues. In this case, this is directly affecting gut health, which is neoplasia, cancer in gut. Uh, so it's not surprising, but it provides a very strong support in terms of database evidence, and that makes people even more convinced. So in that way, so I'll conclude that this is something which is not surprising, but it's reassuring in terms of what we understand about gut health.
So one more reason to have that curd in with your meal then probably. Dr.
Of course.
Majumdar is working a lot, in this area. So can you please tell us, like, what do we know about the link between gut health and diseases that say we didn't know about 5 or 10 years back? What do we know now? What are the new evidences which is being building up in this arena?
See, gut health is actually maintained by the microbiota. So microbiota we call as a second brain of our body. So from the childhood, rather you can say from the neonates when the baby born, since then the microbiota actually plays an important role to build our immune system. So that's why since the baby born, the three things are very much important for gut health. One is the microbiota, second is the environmental factors, and third is the metabolite nutrient factors. These three factors which are important to maintain our gut health and to develop the proper microbiota, and which helps to develop the immune system. And at the finally, this immune system, the potential immune system, has the efficiency to provide the protection against different diseases. Not only against the different diseases, but also that from the childhood, when the baby born, you take the lot of vaccines, and most of the vaccines are given from 0 to 12 age, and those vaccines efficacy are also is depending upon the microbiota diversity as well as frequencies. So this gut health is very much important for our immune system development as well as the efficiency to maintain our vaccine effectiveness.
Yeah. Dr. Ganguly, now, what are the key, because, we want our viewers to benefit from this discussion that we are having. So, can you list some key dietary factors that sort of we need to nourish in order to, improve our immune system?
Yeah, so you can't really improve the immune system. You can only optimize it. So if your immune system is improved, then also there is a lot of problem because it can get activated
Yeah.
against your own body, right? So
Immunity is a rubber stored, like they say often, right? So, Too
Yeah,
much of
yeah,
immunity can also be dangerous.
exactly. Yeah. So,
So again, yeah.
so the goal of the like physiology or body functions is to keep it within an optimized window of normal function, right? And in that
Hmm.
way, we know that all this microbial ecology that are present in the gut also regulate it, and and to keep them in normal shape or healthy shape, foods have a great role to play. High fiber diet, um, foods that normally have microbiota or bacteria in the, like beneficial bacteria, like yogurt that we started our discussion with. There are many other fermented foods which are traditionally taken by different ethnic groups, and the research in microbiota is slowly kind of revealing that those fermented foods um, have been adopted by all these ethnic groups based on certain beneficial effects that have been historically registered, right? And because now we are getting into the science of it, but people always look for whatever is beneficial for their health, their well-being, the kids' well-being, and that has been the same all through the history, and that's how all these foods came out. And so there are foods which help keeping the microbiota healthy and your body healthy. And also there are foods which are mostly modern foods, modern processed foods that will actually harm your microbial ecology in the gut. And that we have pretty good idea about this. All the foods that have been shown to um, drive you towards metabolic syndrome, metabolic disorders like
Hmm.
diabetes, like obesity, like cardiovascular diseases. And all these things have been shown to be linked to deviations from normal microbial ecology.
Yeah.
Because the original paper is on colon cancer,
Hmm.
I also point out that now the very recent data in this field shows that even cancer, the solid cancers, if you can think of it as a ball of cells that forms a tumor, people have actually shown that within the tumor there are bacteria present, and there is a name for it. They call it oncobiome, and so
Okay.
people are finding out. So you never know this yogurt affecting the colon cancer can on one hand can actually do this by changing the gut microbial ecology within the gut lumen, but also it can actually affect the oncobiome, the bacteria which are either subverting or helping the tumor biology so that the tumor can grow. So that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah, like you mentioned, immunity is probably we need to optimize the immunity and not really, boost it. But we often hear people talking about boosting immunity system. We saw a lot of people, for instance, turning to immune boosting, herbs and therapeutics during the COVID period. So, we often hear people talking about immune boosting, parts of our some food items which work in the favor of boosting immunity. And
Yeah.
like Dr. Ganguly pointed out, it's not really shouldn't be boosting, but it should be something which optimizes the immune system. So, are there any naturally probiotic containing foods which can
Yes.
really nurture our immune systems, if I may
So,
use that term?
yeah. So, you have to understand that how our immune system develops since the baby is in the fetus and till adult. Okay. So, there are several maternal factors and environmental factors are there. So, maternal factors are like placenta, health, mode of delivery, and the breastfeeding. These are the four criteria from the maternal factors which helps to decide that how vaccine is working. Second thing is the environmental factors. As I have told you, that diet is very much important. How mother is taking the diet. Second is pathogen exposure. Third is one important thing you remember, that hygiene hypothesis. There is a term is known as is hygiene hypothesis. Then it is not about the hygienic issue, it is a misnomer where the microbiota is mostly playing an important role to develop the immune system. Suppose a baby is growing in very clean environment where there is no exposure of any pathogen, so that has the more chances to get the allergic reactions. But in India, or in South Asian region, the babies have the more potential to develop the immune system more robust because we are exposed to the different environmental factors since our birth. One is the maternal factors and the environmental factors. These two factors, along with the hygiene hypothesis, where the microbiota is playing role, and that these three factors are majorly important to develop the immune system or to provide the success of the vaccine. So vaccine, forget about the COVID vaccine. Before COVID vaccine, you remember that whatever the vaccine we had, we used to give at the younger ages up to 12 age. Because the reason is that, except that flu vaccine, whatever we are used to get every year, if you ignore that part, all the vaccines we used to get our early childhood age. Because of the not only one reason you remember, that is uh, the thymus. Thymus is getting shrinkage at the when you get older. So because of that reason, vaccine used to give at the earlier ages. So boostering is important, and success of the boostering also is depending upon the these three factors: microbiota, metabolic factors, as well as environmental factors. You remember that, and these three factors, when you give the vaccine at the mass area, the social, suppose in one family, one region, one area, one city, one village, and slowly you are developing a herd immunity that is known as a society immunity. And in that way, you develop, you can eradicate the disease by developing a mass immunity, or you can say the herd immunity.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that information. This question is for Dr. Ganguly. So, using one dietary factor as an example, for example, there would be some certain nutrients that we get from the food that probably, influence our immune system. Can you help us understand the mechanism of how this factor, for example, if you take the instance of omega-3 fatty acid, does it have any role to play in the immunity system? And if yes, how exactly? If you could simplify for the lay viewers.
Yeah, I mean, these fatty acids or other nutrients, you don't have to focus on omega-3 fatty acids. These nutrients
Mm-hmm.
actually take part in different metabolic pathways. And these metabolic pathways, that means there are, so I mean, so our viewers also know carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, right? So these are taking part in different forms, in different metabolic pathways, and that generates energy for the cells to function, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, certain nutrients among these are better suited for certain metabolic pathways, so that those metabolic pathways get boosted. For example, for immune system to be nicely working, first is energy requirements. Cellular energy will be required. Next is you need to have, because immune cells proliferate, they make clonal replicates of themselves so that they can actually respond to certain infections or even cancer, right? And in that case, because they're proliferating, so they need certain molecules like DNA, RNA in a large amount. And now there are metabolic pathways which are actually invested upon generating the building blocks of those nucleic acids. And naturally, these nucleic acid synthesis pathways, if they are boosted, they will help immune function. Now, in that way, even, I mean, not only the fatty acids, in different nutrients actually play a really crucial role in either selecting or boosting or thwarting the function of certain metabolic pathways, so that the optimal function of the cell is kind of maintained. And this optimum function is even more crucially regulated in case of a cell which is replicating itself in response to infection or a cancer or something. And when, because again, it's replicating, it's making water cells, needs more energy, needs more building blocks, and like our mothers need nutrition during gestation. So it's almost, I mean, it's kind of a similar situation. And so metabolic regulation becomes really important. And there is actually a greatly invested research field in immunology called immunometabolism, because we are realizing that metabolic pathways are really crucial for our optimal immune response. Now, these metabolic pathways get inputs through nutrients that we take in terms of food. These metabolic pathways are also enriched by metabolites that are prepared by the bacteria that are present in our gut. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can actually now imagine how this a very intricate network of give and take happens, and which leads to metabolic health of the immune cells that will actually bolster our immune response.
Yeah. So, that's very interesting what you just shared, but, that puts in front of us a very important question also. So, as our understanding, like you said, of gut health and immunity now evolves and continues to grow further, what may be the implication of these suggestions, these findings? Will we see sort of its implication in the way our dietary patterns are, the way we consume foods, or it may also someday, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, can change the way diseases are treated also. So, Dr. Majumdar, would you like to take that question? Maybe Dr. Ganguly can chip in later.
Yeah, so thing is like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so see, not only the omega fatty acid, it's like butyric, acetate, these are also important factors along with vitamin A, different vitamins, which maintains our body current condition. And these metabolites are basically is metabolized by several gut microbiota. One of them is Bacteroides, Prevotella, and the Legilactobacillus. These are the different bacteria which are very much critical to be in our gut to maintain those metabolites is regularly produced to maintain our tolerance in our body. Now, question is that sometimes this might be a boomerang for our immune system. Like in case of cancer, also. So this tolerant condition is sometimes bacteria or in other autoimmune disease they hijack it to multiply their own disease. Like in case of tuberculosis, when the tuberculosis get infected in lung is also is occupied by the microbiota,
Dr.
and
Majumdar, and my question is that whether you think the findings, the suggestions, indications that we are getting to understand more about microbiota, the bacteria in our gut and immunity, what may be the possible implications of these findings, these evidences?
so that's what
Whether,
I'm saying. That these
yeah.
are the most. It's not about the gut microbiota. It's about also lung microbiota, which
Mhm.
help to provide the protection if it is in the symbiotic condition. So that's why people have started to work with different purification of different bacteria, and that bacteria we culture in aerobic condition, and we use those bacteria for the therapeutic purpose. Like
Okay.
in case of yeah, we in case of tuberculosis also we have found that the particular bacteria which if we enrich it in the lung, there is a chances of decrease of the tuberculosis bacteria in the lung. So in that way, to microbiota-based therapeutic strategy has been started to provide the protection against different infectious diseases.
Okay, okay. So basically, for example, now we have diarrheal condition. For example, you have upset stomach, doctor sometimes asks you to have probiotic. But it's possible in the future that when you have, for example, a respiratory infection, even in that condition, you can be prescribed some sort of microbiota, right? That this is what my
Yes.
understanding based on what you're saying. Dr. Ganguly, would you like to add before we wrap up this
No, yeah, I'll
conversation?
just echo what Dr. Majumdar said. So, yes, there are clinical trials going on all over the world based on probiotics, which are bacteria that will be beneficial for certain patient populations. There has been clinical trials about symbiotics, which are chemical molecules that will actually help beneficial bacteria to grow and thrive. Uh, and this is spanning not only infections or metabolic disorders, even neurodegenerative disorders. People have shown
Mm-hmm.
that there may be Parkinson's disease. So people have shown there is a big role of microbiota. So I am really hopeful that these evidences that we have gathered over the last 10 years will actually enrich the therapeutic arsenal in a great way. And we will actually see, uh, just like you suggested, that there will be a very new kind of type of therapies being prescribed.
Yeah.
Now it is already prescribed, as you already said, that we get prescriptions of probiotics for gut infections. But I'm pretty sure that in another decade or so, our understanding will be even more robust, and the clinical trials will also give us the confidence so that we can actually start giving patients on a in a outpatient department this kind of therapies and gather some real clinical benefits.
We are ending this on a very hopeful note, and let's hope that some of these things, interventions that you mentioned, also come out from our labs in India, probably in one of your labs. So thank you so much, Dr. Ganguly and Dr. Majumdar, for taking time out for joining us. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that you could